let's go to this breaking news. Clearly, the gods have smiled because I'm here to bring you the news. Harry Kane has told Tottenham he wants to leave Spurs in the near future. The news is being confirmed as we speak, but wherever the story has come from, looking at our television colleagues, clearly this has been a carefully orchestrated moment, because they have got more details than you would expect if it's just speculation. It seems that he wants to leave Tottenham. He wants to stay in the Premier League, they're saying. The next thing they're saying is that he wants this sorted out before the Euros, and they've even gone into enough detail. And again, this could be a speculation, but it appears to me to be too carefully constructed to be mere speculation, that the representatives of Chelsea, Manchester City and Manchester United have been in touch already with the representatives of the England captain. We'll get more. We'll get hold of our transfer expert Alex Crook very, very soon to see what he can confirm or deny here. But I guess, Sean, that the dam has finally broken here. Enough stories, hints about this over the past 6 months to mean that something had to give, and here we have it now.
Well, you've been getting pretty annoyed about this over the last couple of months, Dan, haven't you, about everybody debating it, saying Kane's got to go and he wants to leave. I mean, we've been writing for a few weeks that he wants to go, as have others, and you can always tell when you write stories like that. If he didn't want to go, believe me, you would get angry phone calls, emails, maybe even lawyers onto you saying
and you've
it's
had none
incorrect,
of that.
But we've had none of that. What he didn't want to do, I think, was put in a transfer request. What he wanted to do was go amicably with Daniel Levy's blessing. Now, that's clearly wasn't going to be easy for him to do, because Levy wants the absolute maximum he can get, £150 million plus. That's going to be very difficult to get, even with lots of clubs being in for him, to get a price like that. And Levy's going to hold out for that. But it's been clear for quite some time that Harry Kane has realised that he has to go elsewhere if he wants to win trophies at the age he's at. He isn't going to get them at Tottenham. We wrote last week that Man United were ready to go to 90 million after when the protest started at Manchester United. 90 million's probably not going to cut it. Whether United will go higher than that, I'm not sure. Manchester City clearly need a striker, with Aguero on his way, and they don't really operate with a striker like Kane now, so they're going to be in the mix. And Chelsea want a striker too. So he's got lots of options in the Premier League, but whether they're prepared to pay the money that Tottenham will want is another matter altogether.
And if they aren't prepared, how does that play out between the club and Harry? And also, if they aren't prepared to, where is the potential buyer going to be? Because, of course, Levy has sold his best players in the last 10 years occasionally, but they tended to go abroad rather than to other Premier League clubs. You're right to say I get angry about this, because I see every club that has a decent player automatically. We in the media think that the player has to move on. But if 1 minute we're saying that it's brilliant that Leicester win the FA Cup, but they can only do that if they can hang on to some of their good players. That's my point. Let's get to Alex Crook. Sorry, it's rude actually. Matt Lawton, give us your early reaction to the news that the England captain, for whatever reason, has chosen this moment to tell Spurs that he wants to go.
I think he's probably chosen this moment, Danny, because it's the easiest time to go in. That, okay, I know Ryan Mason is there, but right now he's not letting down a manager. They are a managerless club. So this would seem a good time to push that button. As Sean detailed, I think most papers, media outlets have been speculating that Kane is going to move, and so it doesn't come as any great surprise. But he's represented by his brother now. He's 27. I'm sympathetic to his ambition. I think he's a genuinely decent individual, and I'm sympathetic to his ambition that he wants to win some titles. He's a fantastic player. I don't think there'll be any shortage of takers. One theory that was put to me last week was that if it was United, maybe they'd let Lingard go the other way to try and bring that price down a bit. I still think it would be 90 to 100 million, but it could be that kind of number, plus someone like Jesse Lingard, who's been so outstanding for West Ham on loan. So, there'll be no shortage of people that want Harry Kane. I'm quite sure about that.
Okay, let's get to the latest from we call him our transfer czar, really. Alex Crook joins us now. Alex, what's the very latest on this news that we're seeing, certainly among at least one of our televisual colleagues, that Harry Kane wants to leave Spurs and has told them as such?
Yeah, good evening, Danny. I know
Evening,
this is
Alex.
probably a difficult story for you to cover, being a massive Spurs fan, but it's no real surprise.
Oh, no, I don't blame Harry. I blame Levy, so we'll get onto that later.
Well, we actually spoke about this on the Game Day podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I have to say I got dog's abuse from Tottenham fans on social media because it was suggested to me by a high-ranking chief executive at another Premier League club that Harry Kane would, in his words, definitely be leaving this summer. No debate about that. He'd already signalled his intention to Daniel Levy. He seems, according to Sky Sports News tonight anyway, to have reiterated that desire to indeed leave Tottenham this summer. His preference is to stay in the Premier League. I think that's always been the case. And I think now Harry Kane has realised that he's at the stage in his career, as you mentioned, he's 27. He's given some fantastic service to Tottenham. He's broken all kinds of goal-scoring records. There's no doubt in my mind that if he did stay at Spurs, he would go on to become their all-time record goal-scorer. But he wants to put team glory now beyond the personal accolades that have come his way. Manchester City, I know, are very interested. We know they need a new number 9. And I think Manchester United, even though they tied down Edinson Cavani last week, a story we broke on talkSPORT, to a new contract, I think they would still be interested as well. They know that Edinson Cavani is not for the long haul. Of course, he's in the veteran stage of his career. And I think as a club like Manchester United, when a player of the calibre of Harry Kane becomes available, and it seems he is available, certainly according to his representatives, then you have to be seen to be interested. I think it will be the same with Chelsea, even though they spent a lot of money on forwards last summer. Timo Werner hasn't really worked out in terms of that prolific number 9 that they're looking for. So I think what we're going to see now is probably a very public bidding war involving those 3 clubs, the 2 from Manchester and from Chelsea. I think the timing is really interesting because, of course, Spurs are going to have fans back at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I've just spoken to a Tottenham supporting friend of mine, and he says we'll wish him farewell at the ground in midweek. So I think even Tottenham fans, Danny, and you're one of those, they won't boo Harry Kane because he signalled his intent to leave. I think most of them understand why he wants to go, and their frustrations, like yours, I think will be at Daniel Levy and the Tottenham board as opposed to Harry Kane himself.
I think that's fair. We'll get on to that. No doubt we'll call us about this as well as the evening unfolds. It seems to me that Tottenham had a very, very, very powerful team 24 months ago in the Champions League final, of course, although they were a bit lucky to get there. And for various reasons, the team has been allowed to disintegrate. Players move on. That's the way of the world. But they haven't been replaced with as good or better footballers. And the idea that you could get in Jose Mourinho to paper over those cracks has proved to be an absolutely poor idea and a false idea. And Daniel Levy is going to have to confront the Spurs fans about this, particularly when they get back into the stadium. Well, Alex, the next question I'd ask you then, reality is reality. Kane is arguably the best centre forward in the world. You could argue about Lewandowski. You could even say Lukaku's had a great season, all the rest of it. The price for such a player with 3 years to go in his contract pre-pandemic would have been nearer to 200 million than 100. Where are clubs going to get this kind of money in the current circumstances?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? Because the figure that's been touted to me is around about £110 million. As you say, pre-pandemic, you could have doubled that. But I think the big clubs always seem to find the money, don't they, when they want to do these kind of transfers. I mean, Haaland is another player who could be available this summer, and it was put to me that who's going to afford him? Real Madrid and Barcelona are skint, but they do seem to be able to find a few quid down the back of the sofa when they need to be. And listen, the fact of the matter is that opportunities to sign players of the calibre of Harry Kane don't come along every summer transfer window. I think you're right to call him the best number 9 in the world. Probably Robert Lewandowski would have something to say about that, but I would say that Harry Kane has more facets to his game, certainly this season, the way that he's dropped deep into midfield and the number of assists he's got. So I think those clubs will be working through the night now to make the financial package work. And it's not just the transfer fee, is it? If there is a bidding war to be had, then it's going to be which of those clubs can put the biggest money on the table in terms of wages as well. I think crucially, though, Harry Kane wants to leave to win trophies. that would probably give Manchester City the edge over Manchester United, because if you go to Manchester City, you know they're a trophy-winning machine. Pep Guardiola has won more trophies alone than most of the big clubs in England, certainly in recent seasons. So I think that will come into his thinking as well. And from a Tottenham perspective, how do they reinvest? How do you replace Harry Kane? I commentated the game against Wolves at the weekend and came away from that one thinking, if you take Harry Kane out of that team, Dele Alli played quite well, to be fair, but it's a very average team. It's a mid-table team. They are going to have a list of replacements drawn up. My understanding is they've already started to do that. Danny Ings down at Southampton is a player they've certainly inquired about in the past. He is coming to the end of his contract. It's up at the end of next season, has been stalling on a new deal. I guess the question for him is, are Tottenham the type of club that he would leave Southampton for? Because, again, it's been put to me by my sources there that he will only leave for a club who he believes can challenge for the Premier League title. You probably can't include Tottenham in that bracket at this moment in time.
Well, you could argue nobody's in that bracket except Manchester City. We'll come back to that as the evening wears on. There's the news. We understand here at talkSPORT, we are still trying to confirm it, but we understand that England captain Harry Kane has told Tottenham he wants to leave, he wants to stay in the Premier League, and he wants this sorted out before the Euros, which are, of course, starting on the 11th of June. So not much time there. His representatives have talked to at least 3 Premier League clubs. More about this very, very soon with Sean Custis, Matt Lawton and myself, Danny Kelly, here on the Press Box.